Marcy isn't just your lovable nerd who loves playing video games. Sure, she's a little bit clumsy at times, okay, most of the time, but she teaches us a valuable lesson in being mindful. The act of embracing your present moment. Although other media have talked about this topic before, I don't think anyone does it better than Amphibia. Let's take a deeper look, shall we? Before her time in Amphibia, Marcy is, well, the clumsiest person alive, never paying attention to any of her surroundings. I mean, the girl almost gets seriously injured 3 times within the first 2 minutes that we're introduced to her. Oblivious to whatever goes on in reality because the fantasy is much more pleasant. Video games and fantasies are her means to escape. And in fact, I don't think I blame her, because I watch a lot of fantasy movies and shows because I want to escape my dull, boring adult life. Adulting's hard, okay? This means to escape increases when she learns that her parents are moving far, far away, breaking up the trio of her, Anne, and Sasha. Instead of embracing the change and letting the chips fall where they may, Marcy does what Marcy does best. Escape. Only this time she takes her friends with her. I'm sure everyone will be fine with that. In Amphibia, it's just like a game of creatures in caverns where she can live out her dreams of being a rogue knight. Unlike Anne and Sasha, she's having the time of her life. Unlike when she was on Earth, she's a lot more perceptive here.
Your cloak's on fire. What? How?
Okay, maybe that was a bad example. But when she takes on the Ant Queen, she's as resourceful as ever, coming up with an awesome plan to drive them away. The only person holding her back at this point is Anne, who's having her own struggles, okay? If you would like to see a video about Anne, then get this video to 200 likes, and then we'll chat about her. At this moment, the story seems pretty standard. It's your typical lovable character who decides that they don't belong in reality, so they decide to go to this magical world in order to feel like they belong and feel understood. Whoa, my brain like automatically went to Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
There's darkness in the air.
Have you watched that movie? It is weird. And although she's in her element and is more knowledgeable about Amphibia, she's still pretty clueless about others around her. Which kind of makes sense because before meeting up with Anne, Marcy really didn't have anyone to look out for besides herself. She just had to adapt to Newt culture. However, when Anne and the Planters come along, life starts to get a little more complex. Working as a team is very different than being a solo act. One would think that she would have learned this skill from years of playing creatures in caverns, right? But then again, you think about it, and the people that she was playing with were kind of dysfunctional as well, so I guess that's kind of a moot point. Anyways, Anne and the Planters understand the importance of teamwork, because what's gonna work?
Teamwork!
I knew you knew that reference. They've had to trust each other on multiple occasions. Marcy doesn't have that same experience. The call of the fantasy world is greater than her awareness of her surroundings, which makes her a big liability at this point.
Your cape's on fire again.
The first mystical gem temple is tailored towards Marcy's inability to decipher real from fiction. Through the 3 challenges that are presented, she has to understand that knowledge isn't everything. This is where Amphibia changes the game a little bit, challenging her ideas of what's more important, fantasy or her friends, using one of her favorite games to troll her into understanding the importance of what's right in front of her, by using Anne and the Planters as pawns. Whoever made these temples, I gotta give you a gold star, because honestly, that is some evil genius type stuff. Anyways, this is Marcy's first realization that maybe humanity is more important than winning a game of chess. Being knowledgeable is important, but if you have to sacrifice your friends and family, is it really worth it? The first temple acts as the first stepping stone for Marcy to become more mindful. Oh, you didn't think it was that easy, because now we got Sasha into the picture. Sasha's dealing with her own emotional baggage, which is, it's a lot, okay? It's so much. But when Sasha comes back, things start to get a little more complicated because she used to be the boss. But, you know, she is trying her best to be the best person she can, which means that she has to lay off and Anne becomes more of the leader, which brings a little bit of tension, which is not helpful for Marcy. Marcy isn't the best under this type of stress, because it reminds her of the hardships of moving far, far away. Instead of being real and telling them the truth, the easiest way is to trap them in Amphibia and keep being friends forever. I feel like that kind of sounded really creepy the way that I said it, but I don't think her intentions were like that. The girl doesn't have an evil bone in her body, she's just afraid of change, and I don't blame her, I'm on the same boat. She doesn't like being left behind, and this is the biggest reason why she brings her and her friends to Amphibia in the first place, because escaping and living your fantasy is easier than dealing with your real life problems. No, don't take that as advice, I was being sarcastic, okay? When Anne and Sasha learn the truth, they aren't too thrilled about being sent here against their will. Again, I did not intend for that to sound super dark, but it kind of still did. I am so sorry. Now Marcy has a choice to make. Either stay in this fantasy land, pretend everything's fine, or go back home and face reality. However, the decision gets rudely interrupted. Come on, man. That's not cool. Now Marcy is Darcy, a connection of Amphibia's greatest minds. On paper, this seems like a great thing. She can have everything she's ever wanted. Her friends get along and do whatever she wants. She's literally become the Sasha of the friend group. The three are having fun and forgetting about life's problems, but none of this is real. It's what Darcy wants her to see so that she submits to its control. As tempting as it is to stay in this wonderful fantasy, Marcy learns that this isn't real. Sasha and Anne are much more than the puppets that Darcy has created. And this is where Marcy wakes up from the fantasy, learning that mindfulness and experiencing life is greater than letting an evil entity put her on autopilot.
Only a coward would hide away in this place.
Life is gonna throw curveballs at you now and again, but you can still keep moving forward, living in the present and learning to let ourselves and others grow. Because if we don't, then we're just as lost as every other soul in the core helmet. In the end, Marcy learns to go back home and deal with the changes around her, understanding that things change, but her memories will still be with her. And I feel like other lovable nerds that have this similar story kind of, quite frankly, bug me, because they come to this, like, conclusion that they have to grow up. They have to get out of their fantasy and move on with their lives. I think the one that comes to mind right now is Lucy from Narnia. Is that her character arc? I'm genuinely asking this question because I have not read any of those books. I've just seen the really strange movies. The costumes were pretty nice, but you know, everything about those movies I can't really remember. It's been years since I've watched one of those. Yes, at some point we're all gonna have to grow up and deal with reality, but that doesn't mean that we have to get rid of what made our childhood so special or what our passions are. And I think that's what Marcy does really well. She takes that idea of learning that she has to grow up and deal with life's messes, but she still genuinely learns to embrace who she is and what makes her. And in the closing parts of the series, we might see Marcy as an adult, but her love for fiction is still there, creating her own webcomics for everyone to enjoy. Marcy never gave up on her passion for fantasy. She just found a different way to harness it. Within the 10 years after leaving Amphibia, Marcy might still be a little clumsy, but she's a lot more aware of her surroundings, happy chatting with her friends than having her head down playing video games. The biggest takeaway is Marcy finds a way to break the mold and find a way to be mindful and not give up on what she loves. And I think honestly that's the true goal in life, is to find a way to stay mindful with where you are and be content with where you are, but always remember that you do not have to give up your passion in the process. But hey, That's just what I think. Let me know what you think about Amphibia or Marcy in the comments down below. While you're down there, why don't you give this video a little like, because those are nice. This video was your cup of tea. You may enjoy this one about Sasha and her inspirational story. I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!